So guys, I have not made a video for a while. Sorry about that, but um, I'm more bullish than ever in Qubic. Like more bullish. I think this crypto is going to go crazy high. Personally, time will tell on that, but I think it's going to happen soon. But today I want to talk about specifically about that 15 ubic address and the bigger picture of something else that's hidden in that address that I think would blow a lot of you guys' minds. So let's get into it. So yeah, the 15 ubic address that we're talking about. So if hopefully some of you guys have watched my past videos or know about Qubic enough to understand that there's this address and it says 15 ubic. And basically, this was the fourth Bitcoin block ever. So it was created 6 days after Bitcoin's creation. So the fourth block is, one of the first blocks ever. Basically, Satoshi created the Genesis block on the 3rd of January, and then he did nothing for 6 days. And then on the sixth day, he started mining other blocks. And the fourth of these was 15 ubic, and the fourth block I think was chosen very specifically. But of course, you look at that address and you're thinking, "Oh my God, does it say Qubic?" And then you work out, and you're like, "What's the 15th letter of the alphabet?" And you're like, "I think it's O," and you're like, "Oh, that's not it." But anyway, this guy online called Samson of LA figured it out, and there's this thing called Base 58. I recommend you just look it up. And Base 58 was created by Satoshi Nakamoto. And in Base 58, the 15th letter of the alphabet is Q. So using Base 58, this address says Qubic at the start. Now, of course, so straight away that this address belongs to Satoshi Nakamoto. We know that for a fact. And straight away, that the only question that comes up is, well, does Satoshi know that he's going to name a project Qubic in the future? We know that Sergey Ivancheglo first mentioned the name Qubic in 2012, so he probably had this name back then. So did Sergey Ivancheglo see this address, or did and see this address and then name Qubic after it, or did he have the name Qubic already and decide that he'd hide it in this address? And from all the research that I've done, I think Sergey Ivancheglo already had the name Qubic back when Bitcoin was created, and he created this address and he hid this name in here. Something else that's really interesting that's in this address is, if you go over a few letters here, you see NVOZLT. I don't think they're random letters, because what some very clever people also figured out is that sounds very like Novoe Zoloto, which is Russian for new gold. So then you've got a phrase here that says Qubic new gold. So that got me thinking, whether you believe this or not, it doesn't matter. But when you look into the bigger picture of all the evidence that's out there, this seems very, very plausible. But anyway, whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. What I want to do for the rest of this video is show you why Qubic equals Novoe Zoloto or new gold. And for a minute, we just got to talk about gold and paper money and what that all means. So, the gold standard was something that existed in the world for quite a while, and it was a system under which nearly all countries fixed the value of their currencies in terms of a specific amount of gold, or links their currency to that of a country which did so. So basically what that means is that, the United States, if you had $1, this piece of paper here, at any time you could go to a bank and say, "Hey, I want the value of this dollar in gold," and they'd have to give you a piece of gold. So this dollar piece of paper was as good as gold. Now, I mean, that piece of paper, it's just a piece of paper. It's worthless. But what gave it value was the fact that you could, at any time, hand it into a bank and trade it for that piece of gold. So the dollar was just like, it was as good as gold. And there's a way bigger background into that. I'd recommend you look into the background of it a bit more, how that all developed. But it basically comes from people just not being able to carry their gold everywhere with them. So they go into storehouses, and the storehouses would give them the paper money in return and be like, "Here's a note to say that you own this amount of gold." And anytime they could come back with that piece of paper and ask for the storehouse to give them back their gold, this storehouse then became kind of like a bank. And basically then after a while, people were like, well, how about instead of going and getting the gold, I just trade the piece of paper that says this is worth gold. And that started a whole thing, which we'll probably talk about in another video. But anyway, in the 1970s, I think I'm right in saying that's when this happened. This puppet here, Richard Nixon, like all the puppets who become presidents, came up with a great idea. And he was like, well, how about we remove the gold standard? So they removed the gold standard. And that meant then that the Federal Reserve could start printing money as much as they want. And again, look into this, but this is one of the things you should be really, really angry about, because basically, you know the way inflation happens, you know the way the price of your grocery shopping, your houses, your fuel, everything seems to just be doubling year on year. It's basically because of what this bastard did. And, you know, he's only a puppet for a shadow government that's in there that the Federal Reserve are basically running. But every time they turn on these money printers now, you see before, because this money was backed by gold, they couldn't turn on the printers. But now they can just double the supply of money every year. So, you know, if you've got 10,000 euro or dollars in your savings account, and then the government doubles the supply of money, well, suddenly the buying power of your money that's in your savings account halves, because it's not got the same buying power because there's way more money in existence. That didn't happen with a gold standard. So this was one of the greatest crimes against, modern humanity or first world countries, or just any country, to be honest, any third world country. This was a crime that happened, and it was this guy was the puppet that was in front of that. And basically since then, money's been kind of fucked and getting worse and worse. So you take it to the whole reason that Bitcoin came into existence was because of this. There was a phrase in the Bitcoin code when it was created, and it said something like central banks on the verge of second bailout, or major banks on the verge of second bailout. And that was a hidden message to say, our money system's broken, we need a new type of money. And someone who I believe is probably Sergey Ivancheglo, but they went by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, created Bitcoin, and they created this deflationary money that wasn't centralized. And as you can see, it's just increased in value year upon year. And the Bitcoin network is incredible because there's, computers worldwide, peer-to-peer, just going and tapping into this network and powering this network. And you've got all these computers from millions of users, and probably the underlying network of computers that powers and secures the Bitcoin network is probably worth billions. I don't know the exact cost of it. Now, the issue with Bitcoin is you've got all these computers coming together, powering the network, spending all that electricity and all that power, and it doesn't really do anything. It's worth so much money, but it doesn't really do anything. So it's just wasted energy and really inefficient and not green energy. So although it was a really powerful thing with Bitcoin, it's actually a flaw of the system. So that brings in Qubic then, that uses a useful proof of work model. So it does the exact same thing. Miners mine Qubic using their computers. They can do it from all over the world, but Qubic very cleverly has managed to capture all that power, and they can redirect it towards other tasks. So one task that they're using 10% of that mining power for right now is taking control of the Monero network. The other 90% is going towards training AI tools. So think about this then. Years ago, so Qubic now is this whole computational infrastructure. It's a supercomputer, and it's creating AI tools. So years ago, you used to be able to trade your money for gold, and they removed that, so your money kind of came worthless. Then you got Bitcoin that is an appreciating asset, but really still, the asset isn't underpinned by anything. You can't trade your Bitcoin for gold. You can't really trade it for anything. It's just, we've all agreed on the price of Bitcoin, and it's just speculative. But with Qubic, because it can use this whole computational infrastructure that's under it, and from what I can tell, we'll have to see in time still for sure, it seems like it's creating AI tools. Just by holding Qubic, you're going to be able to tap into that infrastructure and use those AI tools. So your Qubic is backed by this computational power and these AI tools. If you can't get your head around that, I recommend just watching this video again and chat GPTing it till you understand, because this is a really, 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 really big deal, as Qubic's the only network that does this. So basically what you've got is, you used to have the dollar was backed by gold. It isn't anymore. But now you've got Qubic that's backed by AI tools and computational resources. It's Qubic alone is just numbers on a screen like Bitcoin. It's valueless. But the value comes from what you get for it, which is the computational power and the AI tools. The paper note, worthless by itself. Well, worse while a piece of paper is worse. But what you get for it used to be a piece of gold, and that's what maintained its value. Now, the only thing that paper money keeps is just that we all agree it's worth a certain amount. Same with Bitcoin. We all agree it's worth a certain amount, so that's what keeps its value. Qubic, right now, that's what we get for it. It's just what we agree it's worth. But Qubic's going to allow you to tap into this infrastructure underneath it of all these computers and that power. And hopefully, and from all the signs I'm seeing, they're about to release some AI tools. Just by holding Qubic, you'll be able to use these AI tools. So you're just going to have people pouring into Qubic to hold it to get these AI tools. And that is what makes Qubic Novoe Zoloto. It's new gold. Qubic will be as good as gold, or as good as AI tools and computational resources. And that is something you should be excited about. That's all I've got for you today, guys. I'll see you all on the